Welcome to our YouTube channel, In Our Basement. My name is Niels.
And I'm Gail. We're going to be having conversations and share our thoughts about things that we're really passionate about.
And just before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
And if you like the content, then feel free to share it on your social media platform. Welcome here. We're here in our basement.
Yes, we are.
And today we have another guest. And she is like a blast from the past for me. Because she was somebody who was in my youth group.
Yeah.
I think she's like a few years older than, or a few years older. She's a few years younger. And so I might have been her youth leader.
Yeah, you might have been. I think
for a couple of years. I don't know. But she is currently an actor, and she's gotten into the film industry, and so we're going to chat with her a little bit about that. And the way we found out was...
Yeah, you see, this is the season in which Christmas movies tend to come about. Specifically, Hallmark movies, as they start November the 1st. And so that means that by this point, we're well into the new set of Hallmark movies that have come out. And I'll be honest and say, I can't say that I was into Hallmark movies, but Gail, you got me into the cheese of it. And now I'm kind of hooked. And I do like it.
And I have to say something. Just for all of those listening, I think I heard for 2020, there's something like 40 new Hallmark movies coming out this year.
Wow.
I don't know how they're going to do it. And I'm like...
I was just like, what were they going to call the titles? Like the 12 Masks of Christmas or the 14-day self-isolation countdown? Sorry. I couldn't resist.
So without further ado, action! Or... One, two. How do they do it in the films? Do they just take one?
You have. Sometimes they say rolling. That messes me up because I'm usually reading. Rolling. You're like,
very cheesy but hilarious.
All right, so we just want to welcome Sherelle here in our basement. So welcome here. Sherelle is somebody who I've known for I don't know how many years. Do you remember when you moved to Canada, or did you come to church later after you moved to Canada, or was it when did you come to church?
I moved to Canada when I was 11.
Okay.
And I met all of your friends. They were going to my school, my high school.
Yeah.
So like Mike and Aubrey, those kids, so then we started going to that church. We switched from the church we were going to, my twin sister and I, because we're like, well, we're 15. We should get to know Jesus for ourselves. So we started going to Church of the Rock with our friends. And that's how I met you.
Yeah, it's been quite a few years. I was like, what year was that? Do you remember?
Yeah. Okay. So I was 15 and now I'm 28. So it's been 15 years. So I suck.
That's
13 years.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember what our age difference is. So we're a few years apart,
awesome.
But I'm so glad that we get to chat here. So we wanted to chat with you because you just I don't know how many years ago, was the past few years you got into the film industry?
Yes.
And so we wanted to ask you what got you interested in film, because I know that you were into dance before. So I'd love to hear like a little bit about what you got you into film and just hear a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. Okay. So basically I was born in Trinidad, which is a small island in the Caribbean. And and so I had my family, it was really poor because my mom was a single mom. And so I saw God very real in our life because we had to pray for everything. We prayed for food, we prayed for clothes, we prayed for everything. And so watching my mom do this journey with God where she would talk to God and God would respond. So she would say like, God said for us to move to Canada, God said. And so at the Evan, I kind of hit her with a bit of a shocker with my own God said. So I was like, God said, I'm going to be an actress. And she was like, no.
Oh, wow. So it was a long time ago.
Yeah, and she was just like, no, you're not gonna be an actress. She's in the mirror at yourself. You could never be an actress. You don't look like an actress. And it was because at that time, the only actors that we saw on TV they were white. Like they
Right.
didn't look. So my mom was like, no, like we live in a third world country. You're not gonna make it as an actor. Like just get that out of your head. And then once we moved to Canada, it was like, I mean, every immigrant child wants to honor their parents and become a doctor or a lawyer or something in that sense.
Facts.
Yeah. But yeah, so I really tried hard to focus on my school, but naturally I am very creative, which I'm sure you've seen, Gail. Like I'm very artsy.
Yeah.
Dance for me, theater was something I loved. But I tried to do the whole like go into school, and because I'm creative, I did what every creative person tries to do when they try to get a career. I went into psychology, and then
Yep.
CMU, and then statistics showed up in the course requirements, and I was like, I don't think Jesus is calling me to be a psychologist anymore. So I pretty much just like dropped out when I saw statistics. But I decided to do what came very natural for me, which was dance. And so that's when I applied to go to Hillsong College and joined their dance company. And so I got in and went over to Australia, and I was doing that for the next 3 years. And it was kind of like a big shock when I finally made this decision to switch to film. And it was like I had gotten really big. Like,
So, sorry, can I pause?
Mhm.
You went to Hillsong, and then what brought you back to Canada? Was it
Okay,
just
so
like,
that's where
I'm done school, or?
yeah, that's where I'm going with this. So
Okay.
what happened? I went to Hillsong and I joined their dance company, and I got really big. Like, and I was on stage all the time. I was doing a lot of solos, and I had a lot of people saying things like, Sherelle, you're amazing. Like you're just doing so many things for God. You're so awesome. I just want to be like you. And
Wow.
and I had this disconnect where I felt like alone. I felt frustrated. I felt jealous a lot. I felt discouraged and depressed at times. And I was like, why do I feel this way? Like, I'm a Christian. I'm the same as these other people, and yet they seem like they're having so much joy. And I remember there came this really big moment for me where Justin Bieber came to Hillsong Conference, and basically
In Australia?
in Australia, and
Oh,
all the
cool.
wanted to be on stage. Like everybody was fighting to be on stage, and they decided to give me this really big solo. And so I was on stage dancing for over 30,000 people. And I had this moment where I could look in the audience and see other dancers who didn't have that opportunity. And they looked like they were having so much more fun than me, even though I was on stage and I had this big opportunity. And so I went home that day, and it's really awesome. Somebody got it on camera, that moment. So it's a really good reminder for me of like that moment of feeling not happy. And so I went home and I started praying. For the first time in a long time, I started praying. And I pulled out my Bible, and I just felt like God said, the reason why you're not happy is because you're playing Christian. And what he meant was like, you're putting on this show for people and doing what you're good at and doing what you think will make you happy, but you're not following me. And I read this scripture that said that we will be judged by if we did God's will. And I realized I actually wasn't doing God's will. And so in that moment, I just said, God, whatever you want me to do, I will do it. I just can't live like this anymore. And it was in that moment I felt like God said, I've called you to be an actor. So I committed at that moment. God said, get out of dance, drop out of the company, trust me, don't promote yourself, don't try and make connections, just trust me and I'm going to open the door. And so it was about a year of just like waiting on God and just trusting him. And in the midst of that, like not having the big things that I was used to, but yet feeling more joy and more peace and more purpose than I'd ever felt before. And in that year, I got to know God, got to know who he made me to be, got into his word. And it was in that year-long period that my twin sister ended up running into a producer in the mall. And he was like, hey, I'm looking for a American Black actress, and I heard your accent. Can I hire you for this TV series? And he called out the name of the TV series, and it's this huge show in all of Europe and Australia. And my sister, in all of her beautiful humility, she was like, you don't want me. You want my twin sister. So she called me.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
And sorry, was this in Australia?
So this is in Australia.
Okay.
She called me, handed him the phone, and he was like, I'm going to sponsor your visa, because at that time I was like, I'm on a vacation visa. I'm not even allowed to work right now. So he was like, I'll take care of the visa. I'll take care of everything. I just want to hire you. And the long of the short of the story is it actually didn't work out. Like, I actually had to get back on a plane and come back to Canada. And I was really frustrated with God, but God told me, he was like, you're going to do this and you're going to do it my way. And if you're going to do it my way, there is some guidelines, some rules that I need you to learn and I need you to live by, because I ended up having to turn down a bunch of roles. And so coming to Canada was like, really, it was humbling, but also it was like God was saying, I need you to commit to what I've called you to, even when it seems like it's not working out. And he wanted to work on my character, but it came in that moment of what looked like shame. It looked like shame because everybody in Hillsong Church knew that I had gotten this huge opportunity because they all loved the TV show. And so, but it became like a big show off for me. Like, I got a producer's giving me a TV show. And I think in that moment, God was like, we're not going back down that road. You know, and so he shut it down. And so for me, I had to make that decision. Did God call me to this? And if he did, am I going to do it and continue to stay the path even when it looks like it's not working out? So that's how I ended up coming back to Canada. Yeah.
That must have been such a humbling, hard thing to do, to turn down all of these parts to come back to Canada because God said no. So good on you for following.
Yeah. And as I'm hearing this, I'm just in awe. And just the level of faith and obedience already, I'm just dang, whew, that's amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. It took a lot of, the Bible says that we can't do anything apart from God, and his strength is perfect in our weakness. And what I realized was that I actually didn't have to be strong. I could actually get up in the morning and get on my knees and say, I can't do this. And ask for his grace to help me. And that was how I did it. There was no glory for me. It wasn't look at me, I'm just like Abraham, I'm so faithful. No. It was a struggle every day. I just had to commit again and say, God, I need you. I need your help. And he surrounded me with people to back me and support me and kick me in the butt whenever I felt like I was going to go in the wrong direction. So no, it was God's faithfulness for sure.
Wow. So then you were back in Canada and now you've gotten back into film. Was it you started in the Hallmark movies that we've seen you in?
No. So this is a 4-year journey.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you just heard that was just 2015, 2016. So in 2016, I was back in Canada, and that year was a year of turning down roles. And then by the end of 2016 into 2017, somehow, and all of this was God, because the casting directors got my name and number from a theater director I had worked for 4 years back. It was God. It made sense. So even just the fact that they were contacting me and telling me, look, there's this production coming from Los Angeles. Can you come in and audition? It was all God. So it really kept me not promoting myself, kept me in the will of God. It kept me knowing that, hey, God, you're in this and you're the one moving in this. And I realized that in that time of turning down roles, I would have the craziest experience was a production came from Los Angeles, and the director and the producer came over and they asked to meet with me, which is if they see you have potential, they'll ask to meet with you. And they offered me the role, and they were but then I said, well, these are the conditions. And at that time I couldn't work on Sundays. That was something God put strongly on my heart, was not. And they looked at me, and the director was like, I am offering you $3,000 a day. And at that time, I really needed, who doesn't need $3,000 a day, right?
Wow,
but
yeah.
Money. I was like, I'd take $100 an hour. Not even talking about $3,000 a day. but yeah, they were, and I started crying. I just kept crying because I was just like, because the pressure was real. The pressure was real. And I mean, I knew that God was saying, Sherelle, if you're going to do this, do it my way and I will honor you. And so they asked me, they were like, who's Jesus? What do you mean Jesus? What do you mean you have to go to church on Sunday? And I realized in that time, like, God was giving me an opportunity to share the love of Jesus with these people, but it didn't look like what I wanted it to look like. It didn't look like fame and fortune and being on a stage, getting an award and saying, I just thank you, Jesus. No, it was me bawling my eyes out like, I can't take this role because I need to go to church on Sunday.
Wow.
So it was crazy. But after that year, again, somehow this company, so there are different castings and there's a background casting. So a background casting company got my number and they contacted me and just said, like, can you come and do these movies and do background for these movies? And that again was another humbling experience, because for me, I was like, hold up, I just auditioned for a supporting lead role for that movie. What do you mean come and do background? I'm not coming to do background. But God was like, nope, you got to go do background. So, and the awesome about it was I kept seeing God's grace on me as I was doing background, because I would go and I would get like weeks, like 3 weeks straight on a film, which people would be like, how the heck do you get 3 weeks straight on doing background? How does it make sense for a movie to have someone in a town and then in a city and then in a coffee shop and then in a restaurant and you're in each scene? That doesn't make any sense. They're calling you all the time. And I don't know. And sure enough, I would watch the movies and I'd be like, wow, this is weird that I'm in every single scene.
Wow.
Nobody notices those kind of things. But I thought it was just God's grace, because I started getting money. Like, I was like, yay, praise the Lord, I'm getting money. But it was pulling, and weird things would happen where, like, one point the director, the producer needed somebody to body double for one of the actors because they had to go back to Los Angeles. And so she contacted me and she said, hey, I'm looking at the monitors and you look like the actor. Can you come and body double for her? And at another point, they were like, we're looking for somebody to do stand-in. And stand-in is where they find someone with the same like height and similar look to the actor so that they can the light, camera rehearsals and everything. And so so they contacted me and they were like, hey, we saw you doing background and you look like the actor, can you come and do this? So it was like God still kept putting his hand on me as I was doing background. And then finally things began to slowly open up with me booking roles with films and being able to accept that, and people began to back me, like people who weren't Christians, people in the industry, my agent, like other directors. They began to like say things like, okay, let's call her back again. Yeah, we know she doesn't work Sundays, and we know she won't do nudity, and we know she won't do kissing or sex or any of that, but let's just call her back again. And so I had God's hand on me that opportunities were still opening, but then my desires began to change, because naturally because of dance, my desire was always to be at the top, to be the best, to have the solos, to have all the attention. And my desire went from praying things like, oh God, I know I'm doing background, but can you please just let the director notice me and give me one line, just one line, God. And I went from that to going on set and realizing, God, this is an opportunity, and I'm just gonna hang out with these people. I'm gonna get to know them. I'm gonna pray with them. And I realized that a lot of the people doing background were actually like me, or sometimes in an even worse position than me, because they had actually made it. They'd actually done a big role. They had actually done something that got them a lot of money and a lot of like fame. But then now, because of the way we audition, you actually can't hold down a proper job when you're auditioning, because the moment you book a role, you have to like leave the job and just pull out. And so for them, they have to do other stuff in between. So they were doing background just to be able to pay their bills and stuff. And so being able to connect with those kinds of people who were discouraged, or who I could look at and say, I saw you in this movie, but you're doing background right now. And to get to connect with them on that, like they needed hope. They needed Jesus. And I realized that I no longer desired for that attention, but I was content just to go on set and minister into the hearts of people, which I realized was actually God's goal in the midst of that 4-year wilderness period, was that he was changing the desires of my heart and bringing me to this point where now I can go on a set. Like the last role I just did, it had an intense emotional scene. And what actors tend to do is if they have an emotional scene, they'll do what's called method acting, which is where you hide from everybody and you just like think of really sad things and you try and get inside your head. And so that way when the director calls action, you're able to just kind of like cry or be emotional. And for this role, I remember God told me, he said, don't pull away, don't method act, engage with the. That was the only actor that had to do that big emotional bit. The other 2 actors just had to talk to me. So with that, like I went on set and I just said, God, I can't do this. I need your help. And in that moment, God just said, just trust me. You just go and hang out with the actors and I'll do the rest. And the crazy thing was we would laugh up until the director called action. We would be laughing and joking. And in that moment, God would just like something in me would just click, where the emotion would just come out. And I knew it was God, but it helped me to focus on the actors so much so that they were intimate things with me that I knew wouldn't have happened if I was like, don't talk to me, I'm getting into my mode right now. Like, it wouldn't have opened those doors. And I realized that my heart, my passion was to share the love of Jesus with them. It wasn't about being on screen anymore. So, yeah.
So you were able to just go from laughter to like, and then were there tears?
It sounds weird. Well, it was an angry cry. So
Okay.
like, it was like, you just need to have the tears, but then also show the anger. It was actually,
it was what? Sorry?
it was hard, like trying to rehearse it. Like,
Yeah.
a balance of angry and yet sad. And then sometimes you go into to do a role and you have your own idea as to what the character is going to be about. And I do I journal like backstories for the character, because sometimes you don't know what the character's been through or what their life is like and what got them to that point. So I did my own bits of rehearsals. So I was actually rehearsing intense crying, but then when I got on set, he was like, no, we don't want like a baby crying emotional kind of thing. He said, we want more angry tears. So I was just like, I don't really know what you're talking about, but God knows. So yeah, I'll do it for you. Yeah. So
Wow.
the awesome thing was that he just kept going like, yes. And I was like, okay, sure. I guess that's what you wanted. So it was totally God. It was totally God.
Wow. That is very cool. So
Yeah.
you've gone from background and now you're doing those bigger roles. So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, you shared some incredible stories about like getting to, where you're hanging out with people and then the opportunity gets to talk about God and even be that example and that light. I'd be curious for you to elaborate just a little bit more on like, what does a day on set often look like, or would conversations like that happen regularly, or, what does a typical day kind of look like?
Well, here's the thing. People don't realize that actors are actually lonely people. Like you look at their Instagram and you look at like you might even go on IMDb and look at an actor's different credits and stuff. And what people don't see is that you might see somebody did an amazing movie in 2016 and they're like, wow, that was such a good movie. Like it made so much money and look how like it was just so awesome. But then you see that they don't actually have another credit until 2017. And 2017's credit was, oh, that was even better. It was awesome. It was big. But they don't realize that in between 2016 and 2017, they were auditioning. And during that time of auditioning, there's a lot of rejection.
Wow.
In that time, you can't just like, oh, well, I'm bored, I'm going to go work at Starbucks, or you can't just like say, oh, okay, like especially the worst is if you are a big actor, like if you do have a well-known face, because then you can't do background. You can't do like other little things that could just get you out to be able to like have a social life. You can't do those things. So like being on set, that's something I realized quite quickly, is that like the life of an actor, you're lonely, you're looking for friends, you're looking for people to connect with. So an average day on set, like, so you start off by, well, usually you wake up in the morning, and if you're doing background, you make sure and get your hair and makeup done and pack your suitcase and roll it onto set. But if you have a role, which I figure is what you're asking. Yeah, so if I have a role, it's a little more chilled, but more humbling in that they have an idea as to what you're supposed to look like. So you don't get a choice in that. Like they wouldn't even do my eyebrows for the last role I did, which I was really sad about. But you wake up in the morning, take a shower, wash your hair, get dressed in your own clothes, and then you go on set and you go into hair and wardrobe, and they change you completely. Like they make you into what their idea as to what you should look like. Your opinion does not matter. You're thinking, like my family, my friends, they're all going to watch me in this. They don't care. They have an idea as to what you should look like, and that's what they make that to look like. So you go on set, you get your hair and makeup done, and then they stick you in this trailer, which if you have a lot of lines, it's really fun to be in a trailer because then you can kind of like relax and get into character and stuff. But if you don't have a lot of lines, it can be the worst experience because you're sitting by yourself in this trailer where you have everything you could have need of. Like when I'm doing background, I'm with people constantly. You go to the bathroom together, you go get food together, you hang out together. But when you do a role, you're stuck in your trailer. Your trailer has refrigerator, it has a microwave, it has a bathroom, it has a shower, it has a bed, it has everything you could ever possibly think you will need. And on top of it, there's somebody sitting outside your trailer who you can talk to if ever you want to get food. And you're not allowed to leave. At one point I did try one time and I thought like there was a security guard sitting out there and I thought they were there to protect me, but they were actually there to stop me from leaving.
Really?
I was like, I just want to go and see my friends in background. And he was like, excuse me? Like, you're going to get in trouble. Like, if you leave and they can't find you, I'm going to be in big trouble. You need to stay in your trailer. So it was a bit. But so usually you stay in your trailer and then you go from there you go to set. And so when you get to set, that's where you get to be in a room with the other actors. And so in that time, that's where you can either be a method actor, which I've been in a room with a method actor and it was the worst because he had to do a painful scene, like a scene where he was like in a lot of pain and he spent the entire time just and I'm like,
oh.
But the thing is, he's really famous and really good at what he does. So I was like, you know what? There's a reason why you're famous. So, but for me, I was like, I know God always says, okay, you're not gonna go in there and method act. You're gonna build a relationship with them, get to know them, because I know that their life is pretty lonely. So yeah. And I'm in those kind of environments where it's usually just me and the other actor. If it's a scene where there's only two of us, or if it's a scene where there's three of us, then I'll be with them. And then that entire time we'll just talk. And usually you're in that holding room with them for the entire time. Like, because in the meanwhile, what you have is you have them setting up lighting and rehearsals with the stand-ins. And then once the stand-ins are done, then the actor goes on. And the actor, like, we might be on set maybe for like 10 minutes. Like, and it's just to shoot one angle. Okay. And shooting one scene can take up to 3-4 hours sometimes. And it's just because they want to get like a shot of like both of you together, and then a shot of just you, and then a shot of just the actor, and then a shot like going back. Like they know what they want, and sometimes it takes a really, really long time.
But so you're just going over lines over and over again.
Yeah. So in that time, like you're just in holding, and yeah, you can. I try not to go over my lines. Like I try to be as familiar with my lines so that way I don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then you're just waiting. And the awesome thing is that because I've done stand-in, I have such an appreciation for that process. Because when you do stand-in, it is a lot of work. Like when you're pretending to be the actor and having to like spend that entire time standing or moving or walking, and there's still trying to figure out what the lighting, what the camera angle, all those different things. And then once they call the actors on set, you have to spend the entire time looking at the monitors to make sure that you memorize what the actors' actions are. So as soon as they call cut, the stand-ins can go back in and do the actions that the actor was doing. So you like never get a break. Yeah, so for me, I'm like, thank you so much for standing in for me. And then you don't get as much pay as the actor, even though it kind of feels like you're doing more work than the actor's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much what a day looks like. It's just a lot of that. Yeah.
I know that there's so many people who have been dreaming of maybe getting into this acting. What would you say to somebody who's maybe interested or thinking about getting into this industry? And I'd love to hear about that.
Okay. I would say make sure make sure you have a reason behind why you're doing it.
Okay.
Like purpose behind it. Because it's hard. It's hard, and I don't think people realize that like there's a reason why there are a lot of celebrities with fame and fortune that commit suicide. And it's because it's lonely. It's because it's draining. It's emotionally hard. Like you're going from audition to audition to audition, and sometimes you're just facing rejection after rejection, and you're not sure what it is. Like, for example, I got casted for a role that was originally a 19-year-old white girl. I'm a 28-year-old black girl. Like you go in for an audition and you can read what they're looking for and be like, that's me. That's exactly me. And you can go in and they'll look at you and just say, no. Like there's no method to their madness. There's nothing you can, there's no experience, there's no qualifications, there's nothing. Like it's literally like for me, if I'm not doing this for God, I'm not doing it. It's just it's a bad game. It's a bad game. Like you're just going with really nothing to carry you. So I don't know. I see a lot of my friends who don't have Jesus, like emotionally, they're messed up. Like it's hard. It's emotionally hard. And that for me is where I can like tell them about God, tell them about Jesus, tell them about a purpose behind life, that it's not simply survival, and fame and fortune won't give you that. So there's like two extremes. There's the extreme of the actor who like I just heard from one guy, he hasn't had an audition in 5 years, yet he has spent hundreds of dollars on acting classes, like one acting class, sometimes just $100, like for an hour. You know, and he's doing the time, putting in the work, and yet he's not getting anything. Whereas like I have friends who are getting audition after audition after audition and just facing rejection after rejection after rejection. But then on the other end, I have friends who are making the millions. You know, they have the money, they have the fame, they have the fortune, and yet they're alone. They feel overwhelmed. They feel like there's a lot of pressure on them. They're finding themselves depressed and discouraged. They can't have a normal group of friends. They can't go out and socialize with other people. Like, so really don't have a real purpose as to why you're doing it. Like you could just end up like these actors who are just depressed and discouraged. Like I take every moment I know is from God. So even like right now, I'm in the middle of like a waiting season where I've just had a ton of auditions, and now you're just waiting like to find out what's going to happen. And in that time, I take that time to pray. I take that time to read the Bible. I take that time to build up my character and remind myself, okay, God, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Who are you again? Who am I again? And what is it going to look like when I go into this? I pray for the people I just worked with. I pray for the people I'm about to work with. Like, and so I really build myself up, because once you're going, you're going. Like it's sometimes you're working 16-hour days with not a lot of sleep in between. And so with that, I find purpose in those moments. I find purpose in auditions, where when I go into an audition, I look for the other people. I look for the people that are overwhelmed, that seem nervous, that seem discouraged. Like God challenges me to ask them to help them with their lines, even though I know that I'm under the same pressure they're under. I know in that moment, I might not book this role, but this is an opportunity to be able to minister with that person, because sometimes I meet someone in an audition room and then I meet them again on set. So like in that time, that's my time to really build that connection, so they can see, wait, I remember that girl. She took time at her audition to come and help me with my lines, to come and talk to me. So every single thing I do it with the purpose of, I'm here to minister. I may not book a big role. This may be it. But I know at the end of the day, I could die tomorrow. And when I go to heaven, I'm going to hear well done, because I know I did what God wanted me to do. And I did it to the best of his ability, not my ability. So that's all I need right now. I was at Hillsong. I had the fame. I had all the big excitement, and it meant nothing to me without God. So this is right now what I'm doing. I'm like, God, if this is it, I'm good to go. Yeah.
So it seems like your inspiration behind this acting is to fulfill what you feel like God has called you to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like you see it as a ministry and an opportunity to share. So good on you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Amen. I'm just like so inspired just by everything you're saying, and I'm just like here just absorbing and taking it all in. So thank you.
Yeah. So,
Oh yeah. I I do actually have, and this is just a funny question. And this is a bonus one.
You want to tell us the story?
Well, I will tell the story. So you were in a Hallmark movie, I think, and it was, or no, you were. It was called Christmas Love Song. Is that right? It was.
You were a background actor, and you were in a church choir. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So this
Hallmark movies. I can't even remember them all because they all have love and Christmas and so after a while it's all a blur.
Yeah, and then they kiss in like the last 5 seconds, right? It's we know what's gonna happen. Right?
You can always
Just
predict what this. It's like these two characters, they dislike each other, then they start to fall in love, and then you think they're gonna kiss a few times, but then they wait until the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Right, but somehow the stories are so good and we get hooked every time. But anyways, you were in this movie that we saw. It was called Christmas Love Song. I think it was sometime last year, and the reason why this Hallmark movie is special to Gail and I is because it was filmed in the church that we got married in. And so that day when they were filming, it just so happened that set was actually behind her parents' jewelry store. And so we actually jokingly, like, we saw all the vans and trucks and everything.
Yeah, and they were renting out my parents' parking lot too for some of their trailers.
Yeah, so we knew that's what it was. We knew from your parents that they were going to be that they were going to be there. So we actually, Gail and I, and I think it was actually the day of our anniversary, and we were celebrating. We went out for dinner, and then we came back, I think, and then we actually tried to get on the set. And then they stopped us outside the church and said, "Hold on, we might actually be able to get you in." No, sorry guys, not today. But we had like 5 seconds of hope. And there was some guy like listening in an earpiece and something. And
we went into the church.
Right. I think we went into the church, and then we like waited, and then and they're like, "Oh, sorry," and then we left. So
we were like in the foyer area.
Yeah, exactly. So all that to say, and this is just more of a quirky question, as Hallmark seems to film all over Winnipeg, and we see vans and trucks lined up along Wellington. I mean, just the other day we were driving and we saw trucks lined up and a house decked out in Christmas gear, and it's October right now. This is probably going to be released in November. But any tips for trying to get on a movie set?
That easy.
Sorry?
Honestly, it's just that easy. Like I've definitely had them call and like ask me like, "Can your mom come? We need more Black people. Can you?"
Really?
Like they've asked for my sister, even though my twin sister lives in BC, and I'm like, "No, she's not gonna come." Like, yeah, I've had ask me like, "Can you think of anyone, like any Black kids that you can just call right now and get them on set?" Like we've had situations where people have come to drop people off on set, and they'll be like, "Who's that in the car? Who's that? Can they come? Can they come do background right now?" And it's just because people are like, these movies, it's tiring. It's tiring. And it's not like when you think about the long hours, and also here's an insider, being a background actor, you get yelled at a lot.
Really?
It's fun. It's not like if you're doing it, you're doing it because you're there, because it's never really because like you truly enjoy it.
And like, what are they yelling at you for?
Okay, well, it's kind of like, I don't know, like you get bullied a lot. Okay, so basically what it is, okay, so if I'm an actor and I go in to do a scene, the director comes up to me and says, "All right, Terrell, the camera is right there. The camera's gonna be looking at you from this direction. We want you to walk here. We want you to walk there. We want you to do this. We want you to say that. We want you to say it like this, do it like that." All right, great, got it. When you're a background actor, so what movie is this called? What scene? We're going where? We're shooting outside. I didn't dress for outside. And then the hardest part is when they say action and you're like, they didn't tell me what to do. Oh, okay, see, walk. I'll just walk. I'll walk. I don't know if I should walk in this direction. Whoa, there's the camera. Oh no, I just stared right into the camera. Like you don't know any. You have no idea what is happening. And I mean, sometimes they do their best. Honestly, they do their best to try and give you as much information as they can, but most of the times they can't give you a lot of information because they don't even know what's going on. Wow. So like all of that, like the background actors end up being the ones that get the least information about what's happening or what the scene even is, like what you're purpose is. Why are you standing on a street? Am I going somewhere? Where am I going? Like, do you want me to walk fast? Do you want me to walk slow? Am I in a hurry? Are we in New York? Like, you don't really know what. So then that's where you end up getting yelled at, because sometimes you may walk in front of the actor not realizing that's the actor. Like, they're not going to point, oh, hey, that person's famous. They're the ones with the lines. Don't walk in front of them. So you really have no idea what's happening. So at the end, you end up like, I've gotten yelled at so many times for so many silly things that I was like, how was I supposed to know the camera was going to be right there and that I was going to walk right into it? Or like, yeah, you just don't know any of that stuff. So it's hard. Like we've had people come on set and just cry because they're like, why are you here? Like, what am I doing? But I don't know. I love it because I have a purpose behind why I do it. And that for me gives me a lot of excitement. Like the holdings, the rooms they put background in can be such a bittersweet thing, because like sometimes we got put in a garage one time, we got put on a bus, and the bus had to keep turning the engine off every time they filmed because the bus made a lot of noise. So it was like cold on the bus. Like you have all sorts of different types of like holding experiences and for us, like I and my friends who are actually actors that we do background in between when we get roles, like we laugh, like we make jokes, we make memories. Like, one time one of my friends, she caught on fire because we had this heater, like they put us in a tent really, really cold, and it was just as winter was beginning to start, and they put us in this tent with like this heater, and we didn't realize that the heater was actually, it's one of those like high powered gas heaters, and so if you touch like you will majorly burn yourself. But we had this idea because we were so cold, we thought, oh well, let's just put our feet like not on it, but we'll put it like really, really close to it. So she had her mittens like right up against it, and we're just like, what does that smell? And then she removed her mittens, and sure enough, they were smoking. It was hilarious. So, like, it's like that. Like, we, like, die laughing, And then when you get an opportunity to do a role, you look back, you look at your friends who are doing background, and you remember that, and you laugh with them, and you try and sneak them snacks and do crazy things like that, just to let them know, like, hey, your time is coming soon. It's okay. We're all in this together. But, yeah, background.
Yeah, well, the heater, that's certainly one way to get fired, but I couldn't resist the opportunity for a pun. Sorry.
So I'm just gonna add one last question here. I know we have a few listeners who are either performers live or they do films or are trying to get into films. Do you have any encouragement to those who are going to all these auditions and maybe not always getting the roles?
Yeah, I don't know. I would just say, like, find your why. Find your why, so that way you can go back to that. Like, because there's nothing worse than like the way they put it is no news is bad news. So like after an audition, you're sitting, you're checking your phone, you're checking your email. Like it gives you a lot of anxiety. But if you know your why behind what you're doing, why you're doing it, like I had one casting director, I had a Zoom call with her recently, and she gave the encouragement. She said, if this isn't fun for you anymore, leave. And I thought it was so encouraging because she's like, don't waste your life on this. Like, if it is that it's becoming depressing and discouraging and you're losing hope and you're not booking roles, because like someone asked her, like, how do I make sure I book a role? Like, how do I keep getting roles? And she said, there's no method. There's no method. And that's the hard part about it, is there is no method. Like I said, the role I just recently got casted for, it was originally for a 19-year-old white girl. So there was about a month of 19-year-old white girls going in and auditioning for this and not hearing anything back. And then in the end, for them to completely switch the roles to a 28-year-old black girl, like that makes no sense. There's no sense in behind it. But yeah, so if you're not enjoying it, if you're putting in a lot of money into the classes and you find that you're just getting discouraged, like life's too short for that. Like, don't waste time. Then I would just say, like, figure out your why. And if why you're doing it is to be rich and famous, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
because even that won't give you any fulfillment. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here in our basement. I feel like I've definitely been encouraged by your story,
my
and
goodness. Wow.
I hope that our audience will also get some encouragement from this. So thank you so much for joining us here in our basement.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. That was an amazing interview with Sherelle. I mean, I felt like I just sat there just taking it all in, and I'm sure for those of you watching or listening, you probably feel the same way, because I'm just leaving from this very, very inspired.
And I think you saw at least my face go a couple times, just like surprise, jaw drop. Like,
it's just amazing to just hear stories like this of, where you can tell that God is very central in Sherelle's life, and she's putting God first in everything that she's doing. I think something that really stuck out to me was to find your why in like what you're doing. And that's not just for acting. I think that would just be for anything, any career, maybe even as a spouse or a parent, or just in anything you're doing. It's so important to find your why. And this was just so good. So thank you, Sherelle, for your time and just for all that you shared.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's just so encouraging to hear like how much God really does have a place and a role in something like what he's doing in Sherelle. So yeah, thank you so much, Sherelle. And
thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today in our basement.
Thanks for joining us today in our basement.
Yeah, and before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and share this content in your social media platforms. And we hope to see you next time in our basement.